All right, guys, we've got our Match Week 5 Premier League preview here. We're going to go through all the games, all that fun stuff. And, and just a note, they're doing some work on my roof. If you hear banging and a variety of different things, I'm sorry. But, yeah, they're going to be here all day for the next couple days, and I kind of want to get this out. So we got this rolling. And, Match Week 5. We've got 4 in the books already. And, around 5... maybe next week, the week after, we should be putting out our expected XG number from our model, quote unquote, to see where we end up on some of these numbers. But so why don't we go ahead and start into it? The early game here, Liverpool-Everton, the Merseyside derby here, of course, and an interesting spot for Liverpool, who played on Wednesday and have to play the early game on Saturday. We, quote unquote, I suppose, we've had this spot a lot, it feels like, but you have to deal with it. And we have a derby early in the morning. I also don't like the idea of derbies being the game early, but also that's just me being selfish, because it is noon over there in England, and here it's 7:30 in the morning, so I kind of prefer to watch them later on in the day, but it is what it is. But we have a derby here, and Liverpool are interesting because they've started not playing super well, but they've collected all their points so far, and all of them on late winners, all that narrative going around. And we've talked about Liverpool, obviously, over these first couple of videos, and the expectation for me was that a team with a new system and a lot of new players was going to take a month to 2.5 months to kind of get clicking. And so far it's started that way, but they've gotten the results too. So that's always, fantastic when you're in need of, kind of just trudging through it and getting better and better, but you're also collecting the results when you're not playing particularly well. That's obviously gigantic. That being said, Liverpool's last 2 games have been significantly better. The Atletico Madrid game, it finished 3-2, and in the end, they got over the line on a header in the last minute, of course. But they were comfortably dominant in that football game, and that could have been 3-0, and that would have been a more comfortable score. They give up one big deflected goal. Obviously, they score their own deflected goal, but XG-wise and creation-wise, there's not a lot there. Atletico Madrid get a big deflected goal late. They score a goal that I think gets called offside in other circumstances, but regardless. They were comfortably dominant in that one, scored a couple early and stuff like that. And the Burnley game, again, dominant front to back, and that was more of not a ton of creation there, but more dominant just everywhere else, and field tilt and all that fun stuff, and just a bit of a weird game to play when you're going against that kind of low block. That doesn't happen a ton. So again, I thought their last 2 games, they're slowly coming together. Ishak gets his first appearance for Atletico Madrid. I'm not sure what his workload's going to look like over the weekend here, but so they're slowly turning it. And again, I expect it'll take another 6-7 games still to really get going here. And they're facing an Everton side that's been good. They're attacking better. Defending is still a little bit awkward. Or not a little bit awkward. Defending is still good. The attack is not as awkward. And they're getting creative. They were really unlucky to not beat Villa the other day. 2 expected goals. They're much better, it seems. And they look like they're going to be better. And we've predicted a tighter game here. Liverpool 2-1. I can very much see Everton grabbing something here. And I don't want to get ahead of Liverpool's new dynamics or anything. And again, we're talking, they're getting much better. Like the last 2 games, they've been much more the team you've expected to see coming into the season, but also it's a small sample and they're still going through some growing pains and things like that. So I see this one being kind of tight. I'm probably going to end up betting a little bit of Everton plus 1.5 if that gets there. But I expect this to be kind of tight, but Liverpool get over the line. Why not? They've continued to do so. Brighton, Tottenham. This is an interesting one. Tottenham started really well the first two games and have been very much not so great since. And defensively, they've been tight, but, at the expense of the offense, it feels like. That Villarreal game, they had like 2 second-half shots. In a game, they led 1-0, which meant Villarreal was opening a little bit and still weren't getting a ton off. Defensively, they were solid. Nothing spectacular, but it's been that way since that second game there. It was that way when they beat West Ham, and obviously they win the game 3-0, and it looks nice. But again, that was very, very, very even 0-0 type of game, and they score on a set piece and a red card in there, and it kind of gets out of hand. But it was very tight on the road at a team that's kind of falling apart a little bit. So, yeah, Tottenham started well, but I think they're kind of slowly coming back down to earth just a little bit, and this was always going to be a bit of a rebuild to kind of push back into that spot, and I think we're kind of there now. Now everybody kind of gets it. We're over the little honeymoon period, and now we're kind of pushing into that area with them. Brighton, on the other hand, have been okay to start the season. Nothing spectacular, and we've talked about Brighton. This is a team I expect to kind of finish in that 9-10 realm. I don't see anything spectacular going forward here. I don't see anything like hyper negative either. Just a very much middle of the pack team. I'm not in love with the manager here. They're favorite by a little bit here, quarter goal favorites. I don't want to necessarily bet into this game. This game feels like a 1-1. Our prediction is 1-1. This feels very much like a slow type of game that Brighton have played quite a few this year. Outside of the penalties, or outside of the penalty in the Fulham game, it was like a 0.7 to a 0.7 XG type game. The Bournemouth game, very similar outside the penalty, a 0.7 to a 0.7 type game. So they've had a lot of light, slow games with not a ton of creation so far, and a Tottenham team that hasn't created a ton recently and is defending a little bit better. We like the draw here, and hopefully that gets over the line. The draw is going to be a bit of a theme, I think, for us, so we'll see. Burnley and Forest. This is an interesting one. Forest, again, they go to Arsenal with Ange as their manager for the first time, and he has no chance, first, he has no chance really in the game, and then second, he has no real time to kind of get his stamp on the team, and it'll take a while before a manager gets his stamp on a team, particularly with, theoretically, if he's going to play like he did at Tottenham. Such a drastic change for Forest, who don't play like that at all. So should be interesting to see how he kind of sets his team up going forward. He's here, Burnley at home. They're above the relegation zone currently, and the fans will be jumping. While that's the case, and while everybody knows what this situation is at home, the fans will be jumping. They'll be ready. And they got to try and take advantage of those situations at home. Now, Burnley defensively, the other day they played in that block against Liverpool. Going forward, I'm not exactly sure what the plan is there. Like, if they're going to continue to do that. If they are going to continue to do that and they're going to play in a bit of a block, probably not as aggressive as the block was versus Liverpool. But, like, if you're going to play in a block here, I think that benefits you a little bit. Not as aggressive, not 10 men behind the ball, but Forest are a team that play better sitting and kind of hitting on the break. If you're going to let Forest have the ball, that's to their disadvantage and to your advantage, I would think. And Burnley have shown so far that they can at least get some shots off. Not necessarily create good chances, but get some shots off on the break. And maybe you find one that finds a way in or something like that. So I think they can hang in this game. While Forest go through a transition a little bit here. So another 1-1 here. Another draw for me. I have no real genuine interest in betting this game. There's a lot of just unknowns here as we kind of go forward. So we'll see what happens there. West Ham and Crystal Palace. Another interesting one. Palace were really unlucky to not beat Sunderland the other day. They did plenty going forward. Should have won it. We're solid at the back. Couldn't quite get over the line, and that's just the game sometimes. West Ham, they were really tight with Tottenham. And they're slowly, I think, kind of turning the screws here and getting a little bit better. And again, that was a Tottenham game that was like at halftime, it was like 0.3 to 0.3 XG, a whole lot of nothing out of both sides there. Tottenham score on the set piece on a corner, or a free kick. I think it was a corner. And then red card, and it all kind of falls apart. But I thought the first half performance was good. I thought the performance in general was solid enough defensively, which has been their issue, particularly in open play. And set pieces have also been bad, of course, but like a lot of their danger stuff came in open play, which worried me. Set piece stuff, there are teams that are bad at set pieces, and West Ham is bad at set pieces. But when you're bad at set pieces, there's at least a route out of that. When you're bad from open play, it's a lot more difficult to kind of fix it, but they've been tighter. And these are two teams that are tight, and I kind of expect that to be the case here. Another 1-1. You're going to hate me. There's a couple of them on the board today. But I think a lot of these teams, or I think this week in particular, sets up for a lot of tight games where there are two teams going against each other with the slightly better teams on the road. And those always make for tight football games. And I think we have a couple of them here. And again, I think Palace is slightly better. But it's a West Ham team that were solid last game, and I think they can continue to kind of just build that solidity. And that's important because a lot of what worried me about the way Potter set his team up was that he set it up like how he wants to play and not necessarily for the players that were there. If they're going to be tighter defensively and he set them up a little bit tighter and kind of just starting from the back there and building out in a different way, I think there's a chance here where at least defensively they get a little bit better relatively quickly. And against the Palace team that's, again, we talked about it last time and it showed a little bit. There's some new bodies there up front, and you know they're missing some creativity, and it's a bit different. And while it's a bit different and while they get used to each other, it just may take a little bit of time to kind of get going. So we'll see where that ends up. But I like the 1-1 there. Again, Wolves Leeds, another interesting one. Yeah, Leeds were really, really unlucky to lose that Fulham game last week. They've been solid. We've talked about that quite a few times. The solidity is good. It's not letting up a ton of chances. The pressing is nice. Leeds' issue is turning that into goals, which they've really failed to do so far. They have the one goal in the Premier League. It came via penalty, so they're going to have to figure that out. And another goose egg last time when they went to Fulham. And again, defensively really solid, and a freak own goal that they let up. So you don't necessarily look at that and go, man, maybe if they're not solid type stuff. They've been very, very solid defensively. Wolves have been okay-ish in spurts, but it's not shown up as well as they would like. Offensively, there's like just on the edge of being okay, just like on the edge. Like they get into really good positions, can't get that final ball. They get into, good spots for shots off target. Like there's a whole lot of just slight technical ability missing up front. And it feels like they're kind of close. Defensively, a bit weird, not fantastic. Again, this is a team that's bottom of the table, and the expectation is it's not going to be fantastic, but it's going to be hopefully solid at home against the newly promoted side, and hopefully they can find something here. So you are going to hate me, but we picked 1-1 for this one as well. So I think Leeds can finally get off the board here, and I think Wolves can put in a decent performance at home. They got to start putting in good performances at least at home there, and hopefully they can find a goal. I think this kind of, again, another tight one. There are a bunch of these we picked for draws, and some 1-1s and stuff. I think we have 5 1-1s on the board here. This is the one I feel that can kind of get out of hand. This feels like an early goal and everything kind of goes out the window type of game. Like if there's a goal in the first 10 minutes, like this could end 3-2, 3-3 type. That's what this kind of feels to me. So we'll see where that goes, but another draw because y'all hate me and I hate me too. So on to the next one. This is not the game of the weekend, but a fun one. Manchester United are home to Chelsea. United last week went to Manchester City and got trounced. And look, there's issues here, obviously, but for everybody who came into the season waiting for Manchester United, it was like, we're going to take that leap. We're going to take that leap. Kind of halts it really aggressively if it hadn't been halted already, and says, look, we have a lot of work to do still, very much a lot of work, and we'll see where we go from here. But it's not been a great start. So, rumors start to swirl and all that fun nonsense always continuously happens at this club, it feels like, over the last 5-6 years. And then you get Chelsea, who have started pretty well, and will hope to come in here. They're off a Champions League game as well. We'll hope to come in here and grab all 3 points. But again, it's an interesting one, and a game I think can kind of get out of hand. 2-2 is where I like this game to finish. Another draw, but at least this one has some goals in it, it feels like. Not in love with the Chelsea set defense, number one. And number two, I think this game can kind of become one of those games that is just up and down, up and down, up and down. You get two teams that are probably best counterattacking. Somebody's got to hold on to the ball. And it's a Chelsea side again. We talk about it all the time. When Chelsea hold on to the ball, they're at a disadvantage to their own squad, because the squad is so much better kind of springing and going about it that way. I'm not in love with Maresca. I don't think he's that good of a manager, which makes it funny, which is why it feels like they're better when they're playing outside of his system. And I think United here can have control of the ball. They'll have the width, and they'll be able to kind of play 4-3, 4v3 in midfield with the fullbacks. So I think there's a world where United could have the ball and have a go at this Chelsea defense, which is fine, but nothing spectacular. And Chelsea could have a go at this back line and this really thin midfield on the break. I think this sets up for goals. Very similar to the Bayern game, though I think Bayern are very much better than United in the front end. But again, just stylistically, I think this game kind of gets out of hand and we end in a draw. Again, why not? But I think there are goals in this one. So 2-2's our pick. We haven't bet anything here yet, but we'll see going forward. In terms of bets so far, Everton plus 1.5 is probably where we're going to go, and I'm probably going to end up on the under in the Burnley game. But other than that, I don't have anything. This feels very much like one of those weeks where it's like, man, the 10 o'clock slate in the Premier League this week, everybody finished 0-0. And you just don't want to bet into those necessarily, but we may bet some props or something funky in this Manchester United game, because I think it can kind of get out of hand. But we'll see. Fulham-Brentford. Another one. This time, we don't have a draw picked. We're going to pick Fulham here to win 1-0 again. I thought they were okay last time. Again, they get the freak win over there over Leeds. But I think Leeds are a little bit more solid than Brentford. And I think Fulham are just slowly getting used to that holding the ball stuff at home. It's not their best style, but they're kind of slowly getting better at picking and prodding at teams that are kind of sitting back slightly. I think Brentford here will do a little bit of that, sit back, try and spring on the break. But Fulham are solid defensively and solid at home. And again, I think they can cause problems. They were attacking okay against the solid Leeds. They've been home against the United side. That finished 1-1, but they were creating pretty comfortably. Couldn't quite find the second, though they probably deserved it in that one. So, I think Fulham can create a little bit here at home against the Brentford side. I don't think is super solid defensively. And, a Brentford side that's on the road, been playing even. Again, they went to Sunderland and that game was mostly even and they threw that away. There's a world here where, if they don't find a goal around 45 minutes, I'm not so sure what their outlook is offensively in a game like this against the Fulham side that are so solid at the back here. So I'm not so sure Brentford can get on the board here. And we like Fulham to get over the line. Fulham 1-0. Bournemouth and Newcastle. This is an interesting one. Newcastle, of course, coming off their Champions League game. So they're going to start playing 2 games a week, 2 games every 7 days, all that funky stuff that everybody's doing. Similar with Tottenham and Liverpool and all that. But Newcastle are coming off a very tough game against a very good Barcelona side in which they started well, a lot of running, a lot of passion, and then it was 0-0, and then you saw the legs kind of go just a little bit, and Barcelona took the game over before they made a little late push, Newcastle. So this will be a tough one to go on the road to the seaside and not seaside, and then have a go at Bournemouth there. So and this is a good Bournemouth side. We like Bournemouth here. Bournemouth are one of our better rated teams. Should be in that 6th area probably again going into the new season, or when the numbers officially kind of come out. So like this Bournemouth side, and it's a very interesting spot for Newcastle. And we like Bournemouth here, 2-1. I think Bournemouth, attacking-wise, can get at the back here. No Shar here. It looks like. So I think they could do enough offensively to cause problems. Semenyo's been very good, and they've been solid defensively. And Newcastle, again, they have Voltamade. They just bought him in. He probably starts here, you would think. But he didn't start midweek, and that was more of a tactical choice. But in terms of, bodies, again, we're looking at a team that's going to start playing all the time, and the legs were kind of going, and it was a bit emotional. It's a first Champions League game. You're at home. It's Barcelona. And you put all this energy into the first half, and then it kind of just gets sucked out of you. It's very interesting emotionally, and you're traveling here to a small, packed stadium that'll be loud against a very, very well-coached side. This feels like Bournemouth to me. Bournemouth, I think, win this one 2-1. Sunderland and Aston Villa next. An interesting one. Again, we've spoken about Sunderland a bunch. They keep grabbing results they don't deserve, and that is perfectly fine. That's what they're here to do. They need to do it to stay up. But also in terms of just future outlook, it's not been fantastic. It's not been awful or anything. It's not like, man, this team is definitely going down at some stage. It's not been like that. But again, they ran Brentford really tight. That was a very even game. Grabbed the winner. They were very even with West Ham, despite the final score. They were well beaten by Crystal Palace and grab a result. Those things have just been turning for Sunderland. They're at home here now against a side that has not scored all year in the Premier League. They have 1 goal, and it came against Brentford, in which the Brentford center back just gave it to Elliott in front of goal all alone. So they've really created absolutely nothing still. This is a tough team to break down, Sunderland. They have athletes everywhere, big guys in the back 7. It's going to be very difficult for Villa to create here. And Sunderland will have not necessarily a tough time, but they've not been great. It's not been free-flowing or anything. So this feels bent out like a stalemate. I like this one to finish 1-1. We finally get a Villa goal here, and the Sunderland crowd kind of bring them over the line probably. And it's priced at a Aston Villa, like a quarter goal favorites. I have a tough time believing you can kind of lay with Villa right now, the way their offense is going. So a draw, another one, our final 1-1 draw. We had 5 of them this week, and I know that sucks, but it's just kind of the way the slate lined up for me. And the final game of the weekend, Arsenal, Manchester City. This is an interesting one. A lot of injuries here. City, no Cherki, Kovacic, Marmoush, Ayat Nuri, Stones. Arsenal, no Odegaard, no Saka, it looks like, no White. They got a lot of injuries floating around on both sides of the ball here. And it's obviously a huge game. This is one of those ones where can't really afford to lose, or you don't want to lose, anything but a loss here. That being said, I think Arsenal win this one. I haven't been in love with City's transition defense. Arsenal are going to hold a lot of the ball here, you would think. They're still decent. The depth's decent. I like Madueke. He's aggressive. He can run at these players. And when you're having backups at left fullback, And despite the fact that they're talented backups at left fullback, and you're having Matchweek run at them, it'll be very difficult to kind of contain. Now, Matchweek, his end product isn't like over the top brilliant, but it only needs to be good once to get over the line. So I like this Arsenal team here in this one. I haven't bet it yet. I'm kind of like waiting for some of the numbers to kind of come down because, again, I don't think Arsenal lose this game. And I'm looking to kind of find a way to bet Arsenal draw no bet, though it's kind of floating around at the -1 230-ish number, which is not necessarily bettable on a draw no bet with Manchester City on the underside, but we'll see. But yeah, I think Arsenal get over the line here. Set piece, Matchweek doing something. They're just so solid. And without the Cherkies, without the Marmouches, it's just kind of Holland up there with Foden. And despite the fact that Foden's gotten a goal last game and assist last game, and he's got a couple goal involvements and stuff, I'm still not a huge Foden guy in the creative role. Need Doku to do something tough against this back line. Need Savinho to do something tough against this back line, and they're going to be overly conservative here. So I think Arsenal just squeak over the line in a 1-0. We'll see. But I think they're going to be a lot of really tight games. I'm struggling to see a world where any of these games really go into blowout territory. The 3-0s, like I'm struggling to see a lot of that. Again, we spoke on the thought that it was a lot of good teams traveling to the home fields of teams that are kind of in that area, and normally that just kind of plays out as tight football games, and we pick 6 draws, and I kind of think that there are a lot of tight football games here, so we'll see what happens in the end. But match week 5, again, match week 6 or 7 we will have numbers out, and then match week 6 or 7 we'll hopefully start adding a couple leagues here and there. Just betting wise, what the plan I think is, we're going to talk all the way through the Premier League, and then if I have a bet or something in a different league, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the game, all that fun stuff. But yeah, another week in the Premier League's books coming. There's just a terrible sentence but match week 5 coming, and we'll recap it after the fact and see what happened.